All right, what is going on, my dudes? We are back here today with another best champions to use an awakening gem on video. So just yesterday, we uploaded the best champions to rank 4. Today, we are doing the best champions to toss an awakening gem into. Of course, the format here is the same as we always do over here. We have the generic options up here, right? We have the class options down here and the debatable options down here, just like our rank 4 list. Now, when I first made this list here, right, Awakening Gems were super duper, absolutely incredibly rare. As the game evolves, as time goes on, right, they become a little bit more common. You could pretty much expect to see a generic gem like every holiday at this point, right? At this point, we're having a random gem in the 8.1 100%. You could possibly get one for 1,000,000 loyalty every month if you have all that loyalty, right? It's just gems aren't as rare as they used to be. So the options kind of open up a little bit more when it comes to awakening champions that you want to awaken, right? Because the thing is, like, yes, always 100% rank up your favorite champion, but your favorite champion might not need to be awakened, and at that point, rank them up unduped. When it comes to awakening gems, it's still like, yes, they're more common, but they're still very valuable, and sometimes valuable equals expensive, okay? So you want to make sure you get the best bang for your buck or time that it took to acquire that item there, okay? So let's start jumping in today, all right? We'll start with skill. I really looked at the list of skill champions for a very long time. I wanted to add a second champion up here. I wanted to add another generic gem worthy champion up here. I just really could not find one at this point. Now, I do want to say, jumping off of this, right? I feel like giving any champion on this entire list a generic gem would be okay, especially for larger rosters and people with multiple generic gems, people who pick them up on every holiday, right, who have a few of them just sitting around. But if you are still building your roster, you only have a few 6 stars, you have like maybe one generic gem you got from like wherever you got it from, right? That's why I'm still dividing it between like generic and class. Where if you have a roster of my size, it's like, yeah, dude, toss a generic gem into like Medusa. Who freaking cares, right? That being said, let's keep it moving, okay? So Nick Fury, I think, is like the skill champion who like really absolutely deserves the awakening the most, right? Now, when it comes to class gems here, we got Valkyrie coming in hot. She has top 5 prestige at the moment. She gets a lot of nice benefits from her awakened abilities. She can go stun immune, and she can go pretty much ignore the effects of unstoppable. And if you're at a really high sig, that's going to have a really nice high uptime. So Valkyrie, really solid champion. I think there's going to be a lot of Valkyrie fans when the new 6-star featured rolls around and people start getting their hands on her. Mole Man, obviously still a great champion. The higher his sig, the higher his damage output is. Does not need to be awakened, but really, really solid damage output and a nice damage increase from the sig ability. Kingpin allows you to start with some of your rage debuffs. Really, really nice. Now, his breakpoints are sig 65 and sig 200. So sig 65 is going to allow you to start with 3 additional rage debuffs, and sig 200 just 4. Sig 1 through 64, you're going to have 2. And I feel like Sig 1 is just enough for Kingpin, unless you're an enormous Kingpin fan. You want to take him straight to Sig 200, right? You run the Suicide Mastery, so you're going to start with like 6 debuffs on you. Yeah, but I mean, I feel like just Sig 1 and done is good with Kingpin. You have OG Black Panther here. He is really solid, a really, really solid, fantastic champion. And at a very high Sig, he becomes really reliable with defensive ability accuracy reduction, and also you can intercept one of each debuff every second at a high Sig. At a low Sig, you can do it every couple of seconds, like every like 10 seconds at Sig 20, something like that. But yeah, Black Panther, amazing champion. Ragnagod, Thor Ragnarok here, really, really good prestige still, right? If you need prestige, if you're killing for prestige, Valkyrie is higher, right? There are other champions who are much higher, but in the skill class, Ragnarok, right? He still has very solid prestige, plus his awakening ability is very nice, and he's a pretty solid champion overall. Kraven, I really love Kraven. I put a class gem into my Kraven personally. I never regretted it. Whenever I can use Kraven, I use Kraven, and I want to use Kraven. There are lots of things holding him back, right? Anything that messes with his root, because the root is a debuff. It would be so much better if the root was a passive, honestly, man. Because it's just there are so many nodes that like shorten the length of debuffs, or like they shrug off debuffs, or like, debuffs do this. So a lot of things really do hold Kraven back there. But when he does work, he is a lot of fun, and the sig ability is nice. It gives you that nice unblockable ability when you dash in when they're rooted, and also it increases the bleeds. It turns your bleeds into critical bleeds as well, and the potency is increased the higher your sig. Mine is just sig 1, and I don't really plan to give him any sigs in the future though. All right, moving on to debatable now. We have Crossbones. Now Crossbones isn't debatable. He's an absolutely amazing champion, but all of his damage, most of his utility is there unduped. He gains additional utility to shrug off debuffs up to a 90% chance at Sig 200. At Sig 20, it's like a 50% chance. So he definitely benefits from a nice high Sig, right? But I feel like just bringing him to like Sig 1, I wouldn't just like put a gem into him like that. If you want to like invest in Crossbones, I could see that being very much so worthwhile. He's an amazing champion. I think he's a lovely rank 4 option. He definitely is a solid option for gems if you want to invest in that champion. 90% chance to shrug off debuffs is really, really nice. I use Agent Venom all the time, and that's a 70% chance, and I feel like I shrug off debuffs with that guy more often than not. So 90% probably feels really, really good. My Crossbones, Sig 20, I'm happy with him there. I might invest in Crossbones when it comes to Sig Stones. I've thought about it in the past, but yeah, we'll see in the future, right? What I do there. Stealthy is very, very much so fine unduped. What he gets when he is awakened is he pretty much just gets a nice increase to his fury potency, up to a maximum of I think 40% at Sig 200. I've given a lot of Sig Stones to my Stealthy. My Stealthy is rank 4, Sig 200. The camera keeps focusing on Sprigatito here, so we're gonna have to move him over to the side. Sorry, buddy. Okay, so, yeah, but Stealthy, I've given him a lot of Sig Stones over the past couple of years. He's finally Sig 200, rank 4. He hits like an absolute truck. If you're a Stealthy fan, he could be a decent option to awaken. Up next, we have Blade. My Blade is rank 3 unduped, man. Now, the only reason why he's undebatable is because he's just a little outdated at this point. He does not need a lot of Sigs. He's fine at like Sig 1. He doesn't need to be high Sig at all, right? But it's really, really nice regen to have. So if you are a Blade fan, if you're going to use that Blade, I would say, hey, toss the gem in. Personally, if I pull a skill gem anytime in the near future, I'm going to pop it into Blade without a doubt, but I don't want to pop a generic into him, so I have not, and I did choose Craven over Blade when it comes to who I'm going to give my skill gem to. All right, Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi absolutely does not need to be awakened at all, man. He does not need it, but he just get a nice little bit of damage increase, and he could do like critical hits on the block, I believe, something like that. But yeah, he's so good unawakened, and he's very, very strong unduped, and you're not really going to notice too much of a difference there when it comes to the awakened ability or not, right? So yeah, but if you do awaken him, low Sig is absolutely fine. Aegon isn't debatable because at this point in the game, if you haven't done Abyss of Legends or Labyrinth of Legends, man, and you have like a potential to have a rank 3 Aegon, like yeah, that could possibly be a good move. But there are also just other, honestly, possibly better options than Aegon for Abyss now, and that type of content. So I feel like I really personally don't love Aegon in like Act 7, Act 8 content. He might be good in like incursions, right? He might be good. He's not good in battlegrounds. He's not the best in Alliance War. He's really not the best in AQ. So I really don't find Aegon to be the best champion to invest in. Now listen, if ever in the future there's another like Abyss 2, then yeah, maybe Aegon's gonna jump up to generic for a little bit, you know? I said that the game ebb and flows and moves like that, and right now I feel like for most people it's probably not the best move there. But like I said, if you are looking specifically for a champion to do Abyss, you have an unduped Aegon could be a good option for you. Moving on to Science now. Science, we have Spidey 2099 and Quicksilver. Quicksilver has the 3rd highest prestige in the entire game, right? Kind of self-explanatory there. When you have a really good prestige champ and they are also a really good champion, they are generic worthy. They just are. Now, Quicksilver does not need to be super duper high Sig without, you know, taking prestige aside, but he definitely does get a really nice benefit just from being awakened. Now the Sigs are really nice for him, and it decreases the defender's combat power rate when they're stunned, which is actually really, really nice for him for sure, stacking up those whiplash and everything else, right? But the big thing is it increases the amount of withers you can have on the defender by 3, which is really, really nice for him. It also gives you the super speed ability, which is like the coolest thing about him, man. So he's definitely worth the gem. Spidey 2099 really increases his damage by quite a lot. This guy is absolutely not a noodle, and he hits really, really hard with very, very high burst damage and damage over time, especially at Sig 200. Really valuable for content like Alliance War and Battlegrounds, and really amazing for story content, casual questing, and pretty much everywhere in the entire game at this point. Definitely worth a generic. I duped mine naturally, but I would give him a generic and 199 generic 6 zones if I had to. Let's keep it moving over here. We have Scorpion, Captain America Infinity War, Thing, Overseer, Mr. Negative, and Immortal Abomination for class gems. Now, Scorpion gets a really really nice piece of utility where he gets to block unblockable special attacks with the taunt. So anytime you throw a special one, you put a taunt on. This is a very, very, very useful ability. The taunt does not go away once you block the unblockable special. So if you keep chaining special ones, you can essentially always block unblockable special attacks. Plus, for content where the defender is running willpower, like Alliance War or Battlegrounds, you throw a special 2 and the Petrify is on them, you're going to be healing from that. It's a really powerful SIG ability. Definitely has a nice benefit at SIG 200, right? More healing. But at just SIG 1, you get that unblockable utility, which is really nice. Captain America, Infinity War, and Thing, I can kind of like lump them both in. They're older champions. We know what's up with them, right? Thing, of course, gets that protection. Captain America, Infinity War gets the reliability on his utility with his synergy members. Now, both of these champions are really, really great. They are older, slightly outdated. I would personally give both of them a science gem, right? I have both of them duped naturally, but I would give them both a science gem. And I would consider investing into either of them. They are both very, very good and useful champions if you like either of them. It's just personally, I feel like there are other science champions that I would be running towards, like Quicksilver and Spider-Man. I also probably would rather put a gem into Scorpion over these two, because Scorpion doesn't need that SIG investment. So the thing is with both of these champions also, it's like, yes, they're really very much so worth the gem, possibly even generic gems, but they really want that SIG investment, so you have to be ready to give them those SIGs as well, not just the gem. Overseer, right, he gets a nice benefit from high SIG, but he also does not need it. He gets the nice utility of ramping up quicker when he's immune to an effect, so whenever there's a poison, a nullify, is it Fate Seal he's immune to? Whatever he's actually immune to, right? For nodes like Buffet, Power Snack, he's going to ramp up very, very quickly, plus he gets more burst damage at a really high SIG. He doesn't need that, though. He doesn't need the burst damage, right? What you really want is the ability to just ramp up so much faster. Mr. Negative, man, he definitely does not need to be awakened, but it's definitely nice to have. It allows him to heal from degen effects, which is actually a lot more useful than you might think, especially a science champion against a mystic champion. He also has some other effects as well, but that's really the main effect. He gets like energy resistance with light energy, some other stuff as well, but he's just an absolutely amazing champion, man. Go check out Munash's channel. He uploads some really, really cool Mr. Negative content. I'm just Immortal Abomination. No, he definitely does not need to be awakened, but it's also nice to have. It allows you to start with some of those poisons, right? Also some additional benefits as well. Depending on your SIG level, right, your poison effects are going to last however much longer. At SIG 200, I believe it's 30% longer. At SIG 1, it's like 8%, something like that. My Immortal Abomination is personally SIG 1, and I'm very much so happy with him there. I do not think he needs to be SIG 200 at all. I think he is fine at SIG 1, but I do like him at SIG 1. I do like a gem into Immortal Abomination. Up next, we have Debatable for Science. We have Void. Now, Void, the thing with Void, right, is that he is slightly outdated in my opinion. There are other champions who do like what he does better than what he does now, with a little bit more reliability, less RNG, and also Void really does need that SIG investment like Cap and Thing in order to be able to hit hard. Now, if you do like take your Void up to rank 4, SIG 200, he's going to be a beast, but that is quite an investment. So again, you have to just keep in mind that if you're going to awaken your Void, you really should be pouring a lot of SIGs into him. I would say at least like SIG 120 before he starts being like better than a rank 5 SIG 200, right? We're talking like rank 3 there. I'd say like rank 4 SIG 60, 80, probably. We'd have to look at the math side by side to see which is actually better, but if you're going to rank 4 your Void, put the SIG stones into Void at that point, right? Then he's going to be a beast. That's why he's indebatable, because you have to make the investment there. And like I said, I do feel like there are other champions who do what he does now easier and better. Anti-Venom has a pretty nice SIG. There are a lot of Anti-Venom fans out there. It's really good for increasing the regeneration capability that he has, and also increasing the potency of his debuffs, which is really important, right? Because he's all about his debuffs. He's about the regen on offense as well. So yeah, Anti-Venom, if you're an Anti-Venom fan, definitely could be worth it. I personally would not give my Anti-Venom an awakening gem, right? But he also does kind of need it. But yeah, he's a good champion. He's just not as good as other science champions. Human Torch, the only time ever I would give Human Torch a gem is if I was planning to run the Abyss with him, right? And even then, I probably wouldn't, man. Human Torch just does not need to be awakened. One of the best science champions in the entire game does not need to be awakened, even in Abyss. It's nice to have an Abyss, might make your life better in Abyss. He just doesn't need it. The pig gets some nice stuff when he's awakened. I really like being able to put the Porker Popper on them when I dash back, hold block, and they evade. It's just really nice. Increases his damage output, right? Also gives them some more defensive utility as well. Piggy's really cool. Scorpion kind of does what he does a little bit better nowadays, but Picky is still really cool. Mr. Fantastic, amazing champion, does not need to be awakened, but it's nice to have if you are a big Mr. Fantastic fan. Does not need to be a super high sig. I feel like sig 60, 80, 100-ish is really, really nice for him. It increases his chance to evade, and it also increases his combat power rate, which is really nice, allowing him to spam those special attacks. All right, let's keep it moving. This video started to get a little bit long. All right, we have Dr. Doom and my boy Rintra. Rintra, man, he's just an absolute freaking tank, and when he's awakened, he's even more of a tank. If you run the Inequity Mastery, man, I want to make a video like all about, I want to call it Rintra math, just about like why he's like pretty much like immortal when he's awakened at a high sig, and you run that mastery, and you have the taunt on them, and you're rooted, and you have the damage resist. He is so good and so useful, man. I cannot stress it enough. Rintra is an absolute beast, man, and he's worth a generic gem in my opinion. 100%. Worth rank 4, 100%. Dr. Doom, self-explanatory, man. I would say, if you don't care about prestige, probably don't give him a generic gem, right? Because of the prestige champions, I would say, like, Dr. Doom benefits from the SIG the least. It does allow some cheese option, but you need to be at SIG 200 for that, like, corner slap cheese stuff, right? Also, it allows you to steal power gain buffs, which is nice, It's a nice ability. I'd say it's definitely worth a class gem if you don't care about prestige at all, but I mean, if you care even a little bit, man, I'd say it's worth a generic. It's Dr. Doom. He's one of the best champions in the game. It's Dr. Doom. It's Dr. Doom. All right, Diablo, Tigra, Mojo, the Hood, and Wiccan. Now, Diablo, right, absolute beast, absolute tank, right, especially if you're on the Suicide Masteries. He has a lot of damage. He has a lot of tankiness. If you give him the SIG ability, he gets more damage, and he gets more tankiness, right, especially if you're on the Suicide Masters. Tigra. Tigra is an amazing champion, one of the best champions in the entire game, right? Now, the thing is, with her SIG ability, it needs to be at a very high SIG, or else it's almost useless. A SIG 1 Tigra might as well be a SIG 0 Tigra, unless you have an absolute perfect start to the fight. My Tiger is SIG 40, and she almost feels like a SIG 1 Tiger. Now, I'd say like SIG 100 is a solid place for her to be, but really if you are a Tigra fanatic, I would say going all the way to SIG 200 is the way. It would kind of be like you just use a special 3 with her. That's what that does at the start of the fight. It gives you increased time on her senses, which is really, really huge for Tigra. The thing with Tigra is you want to get in, you want to get out, you want to finish the fight fast. So if you have to ramp up, if your senses fall off, it's going to make the fight go longer. You definitely don't want that to happen. So if you use Tiger a lot, she definitely is worth investing in all the way, but I would say like just SIG 1 Tiger would be a waste of a gem. Now, Mojo benefits very highly from a high SIG because it gets a lot of extra damage, but even SIG 1 is okay. I just gave my Mojo a generic gem a few months ago. I love Mojo a lot. Just SIG 1 and gives him the Fury that increases his attack by quite a bit once he's ramped up, and he's a really solid champion, but if he's at like max SIG, he hits really, really hard. The degen starts hitting really, really, really heavy as well. So yeah, Mojo, very, very solid. The Hood, really amazing, underrated champion. If you're a big Hood fan, he can definitely be worth an Awakening gem. It adds some extra utility to him. It makes him stun immune while he is invisible, which is really, really nice. It also allows him to steal some power from the opponent as well, which is not as reliable as the stun immunity, right? But it's just a really nice ability if you're a big fan of him. Wiccan really needs the SIG ability to like really ramp his damage up, and Wiccan's a very underrated champ, man. I feel like when Wiccan's featured rolls around, there's gonna be a lot of Wiccan fans out there, and yeah, man, he definitely wants that SIG ability because what it does is, like, I forget the exact wording of it, but it's like when he consumes one of his incinerates or something, or like one of his, when he makes a plasma, it doesn't consume a shock, so it allows you to keep ramping up his debuffs, and the damage gets pretty high from that point on. So, up next, we have Wong, Morningstar, Voodoo, and Ghost Rider. These are all debatable, man. Most Mystic champions don't need to be awakened. I really wouldn't recommend you give any of these champions a gem. Ghost Rider, I just love, right? So I tossed him on here. Voodoo, very outdated. I wouldn't really give him a gem. Morningstar allows her to start with the soul. I'm not the biggest fan of Morningstar. And Wong, he's a really, really cool, fun champ. I think he's even worth possibly taking to rank 4, potentially, possibly, right? I'd say he's definitely worth a gem if you like him, because it speeds up his ramp up. That's his biggest problem, right? But still, I just feel like there are better champions to put them into personally. Let's move on to Cosmic. Hercules, we do not need to talk about Hercules. It's self-explanatory. Galen, absolute freaking beast, man. Absolute mad freaking beast, dude. He is so solid. Giving him the awakening ability is really good. It allows him to ramp up much faster when there's power manipulation, like power burn, special lock, what's the other, power lock, and one more as well. There's one more he's immune to, but regardless, right? So like just like hitting Penny Parker on the block allows him to ramp all the way up, man. Just getting down her block naturally, not even the auto block, just hitting the block, right? And then you parry, heavy special, 1 dead. Just so solid of a champion, so solid of an ability too. Really good at countering like that sort of like that power manipulation power, which we find quite often. Very valuable champion. Up next we have Corvus. Corvus, man, absolutely still worth the class gem. He's absolutely still a beast, right? And especially in the right scenario, like Alliance War, some Battlegrounds metas, he's going to be an absolute beast. He was solid in 8.1 many times as well. Didn't need the Sig ability for that, but yeah, I mean, like, you know, the death immunity is definitely really nice. Silver Surfer, number 2 prestige in the game, right? Plus it also increases the damage of all, what does it do? Increases the potency of his buffs by a decent amount. So that includes the Fury, right? Which he definitely wants. He wants a little bit more damage. But yeah, man, Silver Surfer, top 2 prestige. If you care about prestige, then you understand. Hyperion, Sig 1 and done. Medusa, Sig 1 and done. Cosmic Ghost Rider, Sig 1 and done. These 3 champions are great. Medusa still definitely holds up, right? And what's amazing about them is that just Sig 1 unlocks so much for them. Cosmic Ghost Rider returns his power lock into a Fate Seal, which is huge, or a Damnation, whatever it is. Medusa unlocks her Furies, right? And you get no potency from increased Sig ability. Hyperion, it extends the duration of his buffs, and his curve kind of looks like this, right? So like Sig 1 to 20 has a little change, and then that's just like the same all the way to the end. So like Sig 1 Hyperion is fine. Sig 20 Hyperion would be great. So if you want to give like 19 Sigs, feel free. No more than that. King Groot, we skipped over, but King Groot at Sig 200, it's pretty much impossible to die, right? So I would say like Sig 65 is a nice sweet spot. You're going to gain like 10% of your health every cycle, every regen cycle. That's where mine is. Really solid regen there. For Debatable, Null, absolutely phenomenal, amazing champion. One of the best cosmics in the game. He just does not need the Sig ability. At a very high Sig, if you use Null a lot, if you run Suicides, right, and you use him a lot, it allows him to ramp up super duper quickly, right? Just one special 1, then you go into like special 2, most things are going to be dead. He's absolutely incredible, right? Let's you start with 15 Living Abyss debuffs, and also at Sig 200. While they're corrupted, any regeneration effect under 50% just automatically gets turned into degen. It's a really nice underrated ability there. Angela, I think it's Sig 181, something like that. Don't quote me on that exactly, right? She becomes like almost immune to debuffs. It's pretty crazy, man, with the right amount of buffs. So Angela definitely does need to be at a higher Sig to be like really reliable, but she could potentially be worth investing into, man, if you are a fan of that. Cersei, an absolute beast, man. She gets the regen when she has the glancing going. She's a Battlegrounds monster. She's an absolute tank. She's really underrated on offense. I love Cersei. Captain Marvel movie, I feel like it's very incredibly outdated, but just awakening her and bringing to her like a decent Sig, like around 672 would be like her sweet spot, I would say. Could potentially be worth it if you are a fan of Captain Marvel movie still. Hulkling looks really low on this list, but I would put him potentially in class. I just wouldn't give him a class gem over these champions personally, right? Hulkling is an amazing champion. What it does is increases the duration of some of his buffs, like his Unblockable, his Fury, and increases the potency of his Pierce buff, or increases the block penetration while he has the Pierce buff active. Really nice. Definitely doesn't need it. Worth ranking unduped, but could potentially be nice to have if you're a big fan. So, tech, let's keep it moving, man. Let's keep it moving. Ghost, Nimrod, and Doctor Doom again. All right, so Ghost, self-explanatory, right? Preferably high Sig. Nimrod, so good, man. Really amazing champion. Really phenomenal at countering mutants, right? But also good against champions who are mutants as well, especially if you're awakened, because you're going to increase the potency of all of your shock effects by 35% when you are at Sig 200, which is really nice. I'm personally considering investing very heavily in my Nimrod right now. He is unduped, but I have 2 tech gems. I'm considering tossing a gem in. If I do, I will give him 199 Sigs. The only thing holding me back is that I do 100% plan to do that to Infamous Iron Man one day in the future. I don't have him yet, but it's just in the back of my mind. So if that plan wasn't there, Nimrod would probably be 200 like right now. Okay, so Infamous Iron Man, he's new. Nobody really has him yet. I believe this video comes out even before his arena goes up, right? But people are going to be watching this video for after he's out, right? So that's why he's on the list, man. I mean, he has the #1 prestige in the game. Self-explanatory. He's an amazing champion. Self-explanatory. He deserves a generic, in my opinion. Plus, it's a nice ability too. Gives you some regen, right? Which is nice. Also increases your block proficiency and energy resistance at a really high sig, which is nice. And it also gives him the ability to turn off unblockable completely when they have the Aura of Iron active. So there's a lot of good stuff from Dr. Doom there. Dr. Doom doing Dr. Doom things. Omega Sentinel. Now, she definitely has decent prestige still. She is 6th overall, even though Doom dwarfs her prestige. It could still potentially be a good prestige move if you're really hurting for prestige right now. Plus, it gives her some additional energy resistance too, especially at a high sig. It's nice to have, right? And she gets like more armors when she uses a special attack to consume them, which is more so a defensive ability in my opinion, because you can ramp up those armors very quickly on offense again. So yeah, I mean, Omega Sentinel, I'm not the biggest fan of Omega Sentinel, right? I think she's very overrated in my opinion, but she's still a good champion. I just wouldn't really want to give her a class gem personally. I wouldn't want to invest too heavily in her personally, but I know a lot of people are big fans of her, and she's definitely worth the gem if you are a fan of her. Guardian at Sig 200 has, I think, the highest energy resistance in the entire game. Very strong ability, gives a nice bleed resistance as well. Very, very, very strong utility from that awakened ability. Sam Wilson helps him a lot, increasing his damage output, right? Increases the length of lock-on as well against champions who will make you miss. When lock-on makes the miss not happen, you're going to increase additional ruptures as well. The biggest issue with Sam Wilson, he has a lot of utility. His damage is definitely on the lower side, and the Sig ability helps with the damage. It also helps with the damage, with the power control as well. Every parry from either champion will give a sap charge to you, and do you really want to get to 20 or 25? Forget which one of this. Sap charges to really get that power control rolling. So Sam Wilson definitely does want to be awakened. Up next is Omega Sentinel again. All right, cool. No, I know who's supposed to be there. There we go. Silver Centurion. So Silver Centurion does not need to be at a high sig, but it makes all of his debuffs into passives, which is really, really, really nice to have in a lot of scenarios. He's a very good underrated champion. If you're a fan of Silver Centurion, definitely could be worth an Awakening Gem. Stark Spidey Man scales so nicely as a 6-star. Definitely wants to be awakened as well. Even at a lower sig, he's going to be really solid. I'd say like bring him to like sig 20 at least, though, if you do put a gem into him. And I think it's going to be pretty solid there if you're a Starky fan. Moving on to debatable. Ultron, Penny Parker, and Warlock. We have 3 champions who definitely do not need to be awakened to be really, really good rank up options. Ultron, though, at a really high sig is nice. You got a nice resistance to the shock and incinerate. Shock and Incinerate debuffs, just really decreasing the length of those debuffs on Ultron, so it makes him pretty much immune to bleed and poison, also immune to slow, and very much so heavily increases his resistance or time that he has Incinerate and Shock on him, making him nice against like Bishop and other champions who put Shock and Incinerate on you. Penny Parker, it's really more so like a defensive ability. It puts like heal block when you cross a bar power, stuff like that. It's like, okay, I wouldn't give her a gem unless I was gonna like rank 4 her. I just wanted her to have that extra damage on like defense or something, battlegrounds or something. Warlock has a nice sig. I like his sig in my opinion. I've always liked it. It's really good for like Alliance War and battlegrounds when the defender is going to be running willpower, because you consistently get that like power drain from them, which is really nice. It allows you to avoid like worrying about their special 3 more often than not. Really underrated. Really underrated ability. Now, he can do that unduped, but when he is duped, he gets some additional degen as well. And in the small health pools of Alliance War and Battlegrounds, that degen is going to add up. You're not going to notice it in Act 8, 800,000 health pools, right? You're not going to notice it in Abyss, 6 million health pools. But when you're up against 120,000 health pool in front of you, and you're ticking them down like 1,000 health per second, you're going to notice that adding up, right? As you're not worrying about their special 3 and you're just hitting into them, and you're just attacking them, right? That's going to add up that additional chip damage every second. All right, let's keep it moving. We have Mutant over here. Mutant, Omega Red, Archangel, and Kitty Pryde, right? Kitty Pryde, these are some of the 3 best champions in the entire game, man. Archangel, Sig 1 and done, you were good to go. What's his like sweet spot? Sig 112 for like really optimizing Archangel. Sig 1 is fine. Sig 1 is fine for this guy. You get the decreased ability accuracy, you get the heal block. It's really nice. Kitty Pryde, man. you take no damage at Sig 1. At the higher Sig you go, you get to like cheese matchups where you're going to get hit while you're phasing. I don't think she's worth all of those Sigs. I personally gave her all those Sigs, but hey, man. She was a prestige option for me at the time. Omega Red, absolutely freaking monster, man. Worth every gem, worth every Sig stone, but you do ideally want to be running the Suicide Masteries. Keep in mind, he does also want the Sabretooth synergy, but if you want to invest in Omega Red, absolute monster. Absolute monster. Moving on to the class gems here, we have Namor, Colossus, Toad, and OG Storm. OG Storm gets a really nice ability here, man. Now, what she does is that when she uses a special attack like Special 1, she'll gain 1 prowess, 2, she'll gain 2 prowess, and she's all about that big special damage, but also she's about increasing the potency for shock damage, which she gets from the Apocalypse Horseman synergy, right? So, the more prowess that you have, up to like a maximum of, I think, is it 10? Because at Sig 200, I believe it increases by 18% per shock, so up to 180% increased shock damage from that synergy. Absolutely insane. Toad is an absolute bruiser, man, on defense, dude. So it's more of a defensive ability, but it is really, 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 really solid. Can really mess a lot of people up in like battlegrounds and even Alliance War defense. Colossus, man, not the biggest fan of Colossus, but he does get a nice ability from being awakened and being at a high Sig, man. If you're a Colossus fan, you will probably enjoy putting a gem into him. Namor, one of the best Sig abilities in the entire game. Unfortunately, it does really require being at Sig 200, which is a bit unfortunate, right? But to get that nice 100% Reflected Thorns damage is absolutely huge. Even if you don't have a 5-star Namor, right, at Sig 200, I would recommend investing in if you have him, right? If you have a 5-star Namor lying around, you have a bunch of Sigs, you have a class gem or a generic gem even for Namor, that 5-star, and you don't have a 6-star and want to invest in him, having a Sig 200 Namor is really, really, really nice to have in your roster, in my opinion. And then for over here, we have debatable, just a few down here, man. We have Professor X, Magneto, and Strife. Now, for Strife here, being awakened at a high Sig opens the door to using Strife more so in content like casual questing, right? Also like Act 8, stuff like that. Just makes it easier, even Alliance War, stuff like that, because you don't have to throw the special 3s. You're going to be ramping up at the end of the fights. That's really nice for him. Magneto, you get some nice damage reduction, right? What is it? It's like a safeguard, something like that, man. But that's more of a defensive ability. But what you also get here, is you get the nice burst damage on the heavy attacks, which is nice, but I really don't think it's necessary at all. I think unduped Magneto is fine. And Professor X gets some increased potency to his prowess, and he also gets a nice defensive ability of increasing his not just defensive, but it increases his, what's it called, man? The charges he gets at the beginning of the fight, when you hold heavy attack or whatever, increases those up naturally for a little bit until you get to a certain point, which makes him a tougher defender, but also ramps up a little faster on offense. So this is the list, man. I do feel like giving any champion on this list a generic gem I wouldn't really bat an eye to any of them, man, especially if you really love the champion, you want to invest with them, take them to rank 4, right? But just personally, this is how I view here the champions. Are they worth the class gem? Are they worth the generic gem? This is just personally how I feel, what the gut is telling me right now. And keep in mind, I use a generic gem on Medusa. I use one on Mojo, right? So I'm even breaking my own list here. Sometimes, like I said, man, any champion on the list, really, I feel like I wouldn't bat an eye seeing you put a generic gem into them. Maybe I'd say probably do not do that to Human Torch. That's the one where I'm please don't do that. Please trust me, don't do that. But again, like I said, you gotta rank your favorite champion. Sometimes if you rank your favorite champ, you want them to be awakened, you want them to be a Sig 200. It's just a game, man. It's a game. You gotta have fun with it, man. You gotta do what you want to do, and you gotta play the way you're gonna have fun. But like I said, awakening gems are high value items, and they cost either a lot of time to get or a lot of money to get. So I would like for you to get the value of your time or money from them. So it's a little different for me than saying rank who you want, play with who you want. Because like I said, man, if you want to rank up, dude, who's a good example? I don't even freaking know, man. Who's a really good example here? If you want to rank up Agent Venom, but he doesn't need to be awakened, right? You don't need to put a generic gem into Agent Venom to rank up your favorite champion. That's just what I'm saying there. So that's what this list is. I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, drop your boy a big like. Let me know what you think about this list in the comment section below. Please tell me your favorite champion that I left out on the list in the comment section below, and I will be seeing you around, man. Also, a bunch of people have asked for like a 6-stone version. We'll probably make that next.